Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going deep on something pretty wild.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, how sound waves can actually change the structure of water. I
Wow.
know it sounds crazy, right? But there's this study from 2022 in the neuronal molecules, and it suggests that it's actually true.
Really?
Yeah, and that this might even have huge implications for like living things.
That's amazing to think about, like, something as basic as sound
I know, right?
could change something like water, something we think of as so simple.
Yeah, and the researchers really honed in on two frequencies,
Okay.
432 hertz and 440 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 440 hertz is the standard tuning for instruments,
Right.
but there's all this buzz about 432 hertz being more in tune with nature and having like these calming effects.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, so the researchers wanted to put that to the test.
Okay.
They used purified water and mineral water and played music tuned to each frequency to see what would happen.
So they're like blasting water with music.
Well, yeah, I guess you could say that I'm picturing a tiny little underwater concert. But seriously, how does that even work? Can you really just play music and change the water itself?
Well, think about it this way. Sound travels in waves, right?
Right.
And those waves carry energy.
Uh-huh.
So when those waves pass through the water, that energy can cause the water molecules to, like, jiggle around and
Uh-huh.
rearrange
So the
themselves.
water molecules are like doing a little dance
Uh-huh. Yeah, no
to the
way.
music.
Yeah. And to see how this dance actually changed the water, they use this technique called near-infrared spectroscopy,
Okay.
for Noyers.
Noyers?
Yeah, it's kind of like an X-ray for water molecules. It
Hmm.
lets us see their internal structure.
I'm still a little skeptical, though.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't the effects of the sound be super tiny, like compared to everything else that affects water?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
But they actually thought of that the researchers measured things like pH,
Okay.
conductivity, and temperature before and after they played the music. And what they found was really cool.
What'd they find?
There was less variation in these measurements after they exposed it to the sound.
Hmm.
It's like the sound created a more stable,
Okay.
harmonious environment for those water molecules.
Interesting. So it wasn't just random changes.
Right.
The sound actually made the water more consistent.
Yeah, exactly. But the really big question was, would 432 hertz and 440 hertz create different effects?
Right.
So to figure that out, they analyzed all that data with some really powerful statistical tools.
Mm-hmm.
And what they found was fascinating.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat.
The two frequencies actually did have distinct effects on the water.
Really?
Yeah, it created these unique fingerprints for each frequency.
Wait, water fingerprints. What does that even mean?
Well, think of it like each frequency created a unique personality for the water
Okay.
based on how all the molecules were arranged.
Hmm.
And to visualize these personalities, they use these things called aquagrams.
Aquagrams.
Yeah, it's kind of a funny word, but basically these radio diagrams that show the water spectral pattern,
Okay.
or a WSP, it's like a unique signature
Oh,
that
okay.
reveals how those molecules are organized.
So did 432 hertz really create more, like, harmonious water?
Well, the aquagrams actually revealed something pretty remarkable.
Okay, tell me.
The water that they exposed to 432 hertz actually showed patterns
Hmm.
that looked more like ice-like water,
Okay.
with the molecules more tightly bound and organized.
And what about 440 hertz?
440 hertz water actually had patterns that were more vapor-like,
Hmm.
with weaker bonds between those molecules.
So different sounds actually changed how tightly the water molecules were holding onto each other.
Exactly.
Whoa. Okay, I need a minute to process that.
Uh-huh.
So we're saying that different frequencies of sound can actually rearrange water molecules.
Yeah,
Creating different structural patterns.
Uh-huh.
It's like the water is responding to the music.
that's a great way to put it. And this isn't just some abstract scientific finding either.
Right.
This has some pretty big implications for
Yeah.
how we think about water
Exactly.
and how it
Now,
behaves.
see, what does this mean for the water itself?
Yeah.
Like, does this ice-like or vapor-like structure
Yeah.
actually change how the water behaves?
That's a great question, and it leads us to some really interesting possibilities.
Okay, lay it on me.
Imagine if specific sound frequencies could speed up or slow down processes like
Hmm.
crystallization
Okay.
or evaporation.
Wait, are you saying we could control how fast water freezes or evaporates just by playing music?
That's exactly what we're exploring.
That's wild. What else could it affect?
It could even affect how well things dissolve in the water.
Okay, hold on. I need a quick recap.
Okay?
You're saying that playing certain sounds to water can actually change its structure,
Okay.
making it more ice-like or vapor-like,
Uh-huh.
and this could potentially affect things like freezing, evaporation, and even how well things dissolve in the water.
Precisely.
This is incredible. I think we're just starting to understand
I know,
the
right?
true nature of water and how it interacts with everything around it.
Absolutely. And the really mind-blowing part
Mm-hmm.
is that this isn't just about water in a lab.
Right.
This is the same water that makes up most of our bodies
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
every living thing on Earth.
Okay, that is a perfect segue into our next part. But first, let's take a moment to absorb everything we've learned so far.
Definitely.
This is heavy stuff.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so we've officially blown my mind with this idea that sound can like reshape water.
Huh.
But now I'm thinking, if our bodies are mostly water,
Right.
what does this all mean for us?
That's the big question, isn't it? It
Yeah.
really changes how we think about sound
Okay.
and how it might be affecting us.
Yeah.
Like, think about it.
Hmm.
We're always surrounded by sound, music,
Uh-huh.
traffic,
Uh-huh.
nature sound.
Okay.
So if those sounds are changing the structure of the water around us,
Yeah.
could they also be changing the water inside of us?
It's kind of spooky when you think about it. Like, could all the noise in a city
Yeah,
be messing with the water in our cells?
it's possible.
Or could listening to calming music actually be doing something good?
Right, those are the kinds of questions that researchers are starting to look into.
Okay.
Some studies have already shown that listening to nature sounds can reduce stress
Uh-huh.
and lower blood pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe those benefits are partly because of how those sounds are influencing the water in our bodies.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What about those claims about 432 hertz music being more calming and healing? Is there any science behind that?
Well, there have been some studies looking at protein crystallization
Okay.
and how it's affected by sound.
Mm-hmm.
What they found was that certain frequencies can actually promote crystallization,
Okay.
which is like a super important process
Right.
for pretty much every biological function.
So you're saying that the right sounds could actually help our bodies build proteins better?
Yeah, it's a possibility. And remember that study we talked about before
Yeah.
with the rats listening to 440 hertz music?
Right, the ones that gain more weight.
Exactly, compared to the ones listening to 432 hertz.
Yeah.
That suggests that different frequencies might be affecting the nervous system
Okay.
and the hormones that control appetite.
It's wild to think that just changing the tuning of the music
I know, right?
could affect something as complex as like appetite.
Yeah, and there have even been studies on plants.
Really?
Yeah, showing that sound waves can help them grow better
Hmm.
and even survive droughts.
So we're talking potential benefits for human animals.
Right.
And even plants. This is huge.
Yeah, exactly. But we have to remember, this is still a pretty new area of research.
Right.
We need a lot more studies
Yeah.
to really understand how this is working at the molecular level.
Okay, so we can't get ahead of ourselves, but
Yeah.
even just the possibility is so exciting. So where do you think future research should go from here?
Well, this study only looked at two frequencies.
Right, 432 and 440?
Yeah, but there are tons of other frequencies out there that
Okay.
could have completely different effects.
Okay.
Imagine if we could find the right frequencies that optimize certain biological processes.
It's like a sonic toolkit for health and well-being.
Exactly. And it's not just about frequencies either.
Right.
We should also look into different types of sounds.
Okay.
This study used music,
Uh-huh.
but what about things like nature sounds,
Yeah.
binaural beats,
Mm.
or even like spoken words?
Right. Like, could those also have an impact on the structure of water?
Exactly. It makes me think about those studies that showed plants responding to different types of music.
Oh, yeah. I remember reading about that.
Yeah, maybe there's a whole language of sound that we're just starting to figure out.
I love that idea. And wouldn't it be incredible if we could use that language
Yeah.
to promote healing, enhance plant growth, or even improve our own mood and focus?
The possibilities are really endless.
This whole conversation is making me think about those ancient traditions that have always used sound things,
Yeah.
like chanting singing bowls,
Mhm.
using music in healing ceremonies.
Yeah.
Maybe they were onto something all along.
I think so. The traditions often focus on how everything is interconnected
Right.
and the idea that sound can restore harmony and balance.
Hmm.
And that really fits with the idea that sound can influence the structure of water,
Yeah.
which is so essential for life.
It's almost like we've come full circle connecting this ancient wisdom
Yeah.
with cutting-edge science.
Absolutely. And it's not just about looking back.
Right.
It's also about looking forward
Yeah.
to all the amazing new discoveries that are waiting for us as we learn more
Uh-huh.
about sound water
Okay.
and life itself.
I love that. All right. I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah, we have.
This deep dive has been incredible,
It has.
filled with fascinating findings and even more intriguing questions.
Absolutely. It really shows how much we still don't know
Yeah.
and how much more there is to discover.
This study was like a first step,
Yeah.
but it leaves me with this burning question.
Okay.
If sound can have such a big impact on water,
Uh-huh.
the very foundation of life,
Right.
is it possible that it played a role in the origins of life itself?
Wow, that's a deep question.
I know, right?
It's one that scientists are really starting to think about.
It's pretty mind-blowing to imagine that primordial soup where
Mhm.
life first emerged, being shaped by the sounds of early Earth,
Wow.
like volcanic eruptions, crashing waves,
Mhm.
the rumble of thunder.
It's beautiful and humbling, isn't it?
Totally. And even if we never know for sure,
Right.
it makes you realize we're part of something much bigger than ourselves.
I couldn't agree more.
So, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up as part of our deep dive.
Yeah, let's take a moment to let all of this sink in.
And when we come back, we'll explore some of the ways we can use this knowledge in our own lives.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to our deep dive, everyone. We've been talking about how sound can actually restructure water
Yeah,
and what that might mean for like everything on Earth.
it's pretty wild.
And you know, speaking of how everything's connected, I've been thinking about what you said about noise pollution
Uh-huh.
and how it could affect the water in our bodies.
Yeah.
It's honestly a little scary.
Yeah, it's not the most comforting thought.
So, like, what can we do about it? We can't exactly live in a soundproof bubble.
Right, but we can try to be more mindful of the sounds we're around.
Okay.
Like, try to spend more time in nature,
Mm,
listen to calming music,
yeah.
create more peaceful spaces in our homes.
Yeah, I definitely feel better when I'm around nature sounds.
Uh-huh.
It's so relaxing.
There's actually a lot of research showing that nature sounds can help with stress,
Okay.
lower blood pressure, even improve sleep.
Makes you wonder if it's partly because of how those sounds are affecting the water inside us.
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And thinking about the other side of that,
Okay.
we should probably try to limit how much we're around loud, harsh noises.
Right. Especially since it seems like the world is just getting noisier and noisier.
Exactly. I mean, think about all the traffic sirens
It's
constructed.
a lot. This whole conversation has actually made me way more aware of all the sounds around me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like now I notice the birds singing, the wind in the trees, even like the sound of my own breathing.
That's great. It's a good way to like reconnect with yourself and with
Yeah.
nature.
It also makes me think about those ancient traditions that have always focused on sound,
Right.
like chanting, singing bowls,
Yeah.
using music for healing.
They might have been onto something.
I think so too. They thought of sound as this powerful tool for healing and transformation.
Right. And that idea fits in really well with what we're learning about how sound affects the structure of water,
Yeah.
which is basically the foundation of life.
It's like we're bringing together ancient wisdom with modern science.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it opens up so many possibilities for the future, too.
Absolutely. Like we might discover ways to use sound to improve our health,
Yeah.
help people heal,
Right.
create more harmony in ourselves and the world.
Yeah, this whole deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me.
Me too.
It's changed how I think about water,
Yeah,
something I thought I already knew,
right.
and it's just left me feeling so inspired.
Yeah, it's like we've gotten a glimpse into this hidden world,
Mm-hmm.
this world of these tiny but powerful forces that we're just starting to understand.
Absolutely. And it makes you realize that even the things we think are simple,
Yeah,
like water and sound,
right.
are full of mystery and potential.
Exactly. So who knows what other amazing things are out there waiting to be discovered.
Yeah, who knows?
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive.
Okay.
It's been a real journey exploring how sound can shape water and life itself.
Absolutely.
So until next time, keep those ears open, those minds curious, and remember to really listen to the world around you.
Yeah.
You never know what secrets you might uncover. A CIM.